Good morning, everyone. If you can hear me, please give a thumbs up before we continue. Okay, thank you, Grace. My name is Christian Okemwa from ACCUREX. Uh, I'll be your moderator for today for the webinar. I'd like to welcome all of you to ACCUREX O'Clock. Yet another Wednesday, we are starting the webinar. Today's topic is very interesting. It's about something that I think everyone goes through, especially the recent times. So it's psychological safety. The title is Psychological Safety, what it is and why it matters. Our speaker of the day is Faris Maina. When his time comes, I will invite him to speak. Uh, Please, if you can remind your colleagues to also join the webinar. It's a free webinar. Everyone is welcome. And yeah, ACCUREX is a human consulting company. We deal with different services. We have training, we have team building, we do recruitment, we do also coaching, mentoring. We also do payroll management, outsourcing, CV writing, letters, and LinkedIn profile reviews. We have our product called People HRIS. It is a human resource information system that basically digitizes every human resource process that a company does. So you can also visit our website to view our various services also, and you can also take a look at our jobs. We also post jobs on behalf of companies. If you have know someone looking for a job and we've posted it, they can visit our website www.accurex.co.ke to get everything you need to know about our company. Our primary office is located along Mombasa Road, Ends Business Park, Block A, second floor. Please also, you can give us a visit to inquire anything if you're around the area, and we'll be very happy to serve you. Now, that's been my part. I'd like to welcome today's speaker, Faris. If you're inside the meeting, you can also say, say something. Thank you, everyone. Am I still audible or am I breaking? If I'm not audible, you can send a chat. Is the audio okay? Thank you, thank you. Faris, are you in the meeting?
Yes, I am. Good morning.
Yes, he's here. Good morning, Faris.
How are you, as everyone? Cold morning in Nairobi for those in Nairobi.
Yes,
So, welcome all to today's topic. It's a continuation to a topic that we have had before on occupational safety and health. And today we will look at how we can start building culture around safety and health in our different workplaces. And the first way to do that is enabling or empowering everyone to get on board in terms of occupational health and safety. So that is today's topic. Yeah, I don't know if we can start.
yeah, we can start. The rest of the audience will join us as we continue the webinar because I'm also
All right,
recording it. If they miss anything, they can just go to our YouTube and check it out.
all right. So I'll share my screen. I hope everyone can see my screen. Sorry about that. Just a moment. So, thank you. So for today's topic, as I mentioned, we are going to look at psychological safety. Let me just minimize this. We're going to look at psychological safety, what it is and why it matters. We're going to look at a few things on psychological safety. Um, having a few issues on my end. Just give me just a moment. So yes, we are going to look at the following. One, what it is, what we mean by psychological safety. We are going to look at how do you identify if psychological safety is missing in your workplace. We are going to look at the signs of of a healthy psychological safety. We are going to look at the enablers of a healthy psychological safety, and we will finish up with how do we kickstart a healthy psychological safety in our different workspaces. Now, before I begin, I want to give a small scenario, which is something that can contribute to as a psychological hazard. We have different psychological hazards in the workplace, bullying, but one main one is sexual harassment. And as we continue with our discussion, I would want to hear maybe from a HR practitioner and a person who is not part of the HR processes on how they deal with sexual harassment in their workplaces. So that's something that we are going to look at as we move on. So I want to start with what we mean by psychological hazards. Um, Number one, I know so many times you have had an issue in your workplace. I've given a scenario of sexual harassment. If I, as a HR, you got a case of sexual harassment, how do you deal with it? On the other side of the employee, if somebody is going through sexual harassment, how are they supposed to deal with it? Um, that applies in so many other things. So think about this. You had an idea, but you stayed quiet about that idea. You had an issue, for example, sexual harassment, and you stayed quiet about it. What was the reason? In many cases, for example, sexual harassment, maybe the people will be afraid of what is going to happen to them. Maybe the person they are dealing with is somebody who's above them in their pay grade. So, as a HR, do you think the people around your organization would speak up if something like that happens? Think about this. People are most likely to fear looking or asking questions that may sound uninformed. Is this something that you think, as a HR practitioner, that people in your organization may be dealing with? Are people afraid of speaking out? So, psychological safety, basically, we can say is that you are trying to create an environment, you are trying to create conditions that will allow people in the workplace to feel comfortable speaking up, to feel comfortable sharing ideas, to feel comfortable pointing out mistakes, just not just from themselves, but also from other people. And creating a psychological safety environment is the first step in creating a safe working environment. Let's look at at the different hazards. Somebody is speaking. Kindly, Julius,
Kindly, Julius.
Julius, thank you. So we talked about the different types of hazards. We have the physical hazards, we have the physical hazards, and we have the other types of hazards, including psychological hazards. As I mentioned, that one main one is sexual harassment. Um, when we are talking about psychological safety, we are not just talking about dealing with the psychological hazards. We are talking about dealing with the physical hazards hazards that will come up in our workplaces. So the first point I want to make is on the definition of what the psychological safety means. I've said that in simple terms, how we can describe it is that you are creating conditions that will allow people to speak freely, to point out if you have these physical, psychological hazards, biological hazards in the workplace. So number
Arif,
one, that um, sorry.
could you please go back to presenter mode?
Oh, sorry about that. So number one, um, that a work environment where employees feel safe to raise concerns. That is number one. Secondly, that there is freedom to report hazards, near misses, errors without fear. Number three, that we have mutual respect between workers, supervisors, and managers. And lastly, that there is confidence that concerns will be taken seriously and acted upon. The scenario that I've given, for example, if we are talking about sexual harassment, one, as a HR practitioner, do you think that the environment that you have created in your workplace, that people will feel safe to raise a sexual harassment concern? And if so, have you provided mechanisms for people to report these issues? If somebody is going through sexual harassment, have you provided a platform that somebody will be able to report that? And lastly, as a HR practitioner, have you enabled your employees or the employee? Do you feel comfortable that once you have raised maybe a sexual harassment issue, that it be taken care of? If these four things are taken care of, then we have a psychological safety environment. Now, that doesn't mean that all the four in many workplaces will be taken care of. And so we are going to look at the signs or the things that will show us or indicate that these things are not being met. Number one is that you, as a HR practitioner, you're not getting any reports. Somebody is going through, is being bullied, you're not getting any reports. I don't think we are going to have a workplace that you are not, as a HR practitioner, you're not going to have any issues reported to you. So if you are a HR practitioner and you don't have any issues being reported to you, then obviously means that something is missing. Either you have not provided a platform for people to report these issues, or secondly, that people don't feel comfortable reporting these issues to you. Another indicator is that people stay silent when they notice problems. One physical hazard that many people will be frequent in workplaces: naked wires or a faulty equipment that we may lead up at some point to a fire incident or an electrical shock. Do you think that you are comfortable that if you say today that my the equipment, my printer that I use is faulty and I think it may cause fire at some point? Do you think you are comfortable talking about it? Will it be addressed? Um, Another sign is that people avoid sharing ideas, that people are afraid to speak up. One, they are afraid that the idea will not be taken into action or it will be dismissed. Another indicator is that people fear asking questions. We always say that in safety, we don't have any stupid questions, and that should apply to every workplace. You want to enable an environment where people don't feel afraid to ask even the simplest of questions. And as a leader, as a HR practitioner, you should be able to create an environment that even the least person in the occupational food chain is able to present a question, and that question will be respected and answered in the best way possible. And lastly, another indicator is that people will hide mistakes. Now, I started by asking a situation whereby in an environment, or an occupational environment where we have sexual harassment. Number one, if the people do not feel, if the people are not reporting such an incident, it means that one, they do not have a platform to do that, or secondly, they do not feel safe, or do not feel comfortable doing that. That is a failure on both ends, from the leadership and from the employees. Secondly, if we have an environment where maybe sexual harassment is taking place and people are staying silent, again, it means that something is missing. Either they don't feel that maybe the HR is going to take that matter seriously, or anything is going to happen to the person that they have reported on. So these are some of the indicators that will show us that the occupation or the workplace that you're working in do not have the psychological safety. Now, I want to move on to the signs, the signs of a good, healthy, workplace environment. Number one, that the team members participate actively. That questions are welcomed, that feedback is constructive and is allowed. Different opinions are respected. Mistakes are treated as learning opportunities. And finally, that employees feel valued and included. If you have a situation where team members have identified a problem, in this case, we say that we are going to use sexual harassment as an example, that they have identified that maybe it's not something that is a major concern in their workplace, but something that is clipping in, that they are able to say it out loud and call out people who may be engaging in these kind of behaviors. And if so, um, the HRs in this situation, are they able to welcome these criticisms, or the people or the leaders in this situation, are they able to welcome the feedback that they have gotten from their employees? Another example is, do you have forums or ways that your employees can present their problems? In many cases, many people will not be comfortable going out of their ways to talk directly to their employers, or to the HRs. And in such a case, it's the duty of the employer or the leaders of the HRs to make sure that they have created a platform, something anonymous, that if I feel this is not something that I want to share out loud, that I can put in that platform. And once I put in that platform, I should have the confidence to know that once that matter goes into that platform, one, it will be anonymous. And if it is not anonymous, that my data will be protected. I don't want to put out an issue maybe in an anonymous forum, and then maybe in the coming future, I hear people talking about the issue that I posted. So one, they should have the confidence to report. They should have the platform to report. The data that will be presented in that platform should be well protected, and that at the bare minimum, what was reported should be able to be resolved. It can be resolved silently. It can be resolved through a policy change. But at the end of the day, the employees need to feel that their issues are being addressed. If these things are happening in any workplace, then you have the first step in ensuring that the psychological safety in your workplace is addressed. And why are we encouraging that you build a culture of psychological safety? Psychological safety is the first step to building a good culture. The things that you are seeing in your screen, or what we have presented as the signs of a healthy workplace culture, if these things are happening, this maybe you'll be able to prevent the smaller issues, the sexual, the smaller issues, the bullying, to major issues. For example, sexual harassment, going to the physical hazards. I may be able to see that today there are some faulty equipments in my working environment. Even if if these things are addressed, maybe I'm able to prevent a major fire outbreak. And so if these things are happening, then we are at a first step in ensuring that we have a healthy workplace culture. I want to move on now. We know the science of a poor workplace culture or psychological safety culture. We know it means to have a healthy workplace culture. Now, what will enable this healthy workplace culture to exist? Number one, encouraging open dialogue. As we said, you may create an open platform where people can air their issues, but there are issues that may not be raised in the open. So you need to create a platform where the sensitive issues will be raised. I gave an example of an anonymous platform. Secondly, you have to support inclusion. You have to ensure that diverse perspectives are valued and included. You have to promote fairness, that all people will feel that they have been treated equitably and respectfully. You have to foster trust. And this is a good example. If I have presented a very sensitive issue to the leadership or to the HR, as I said, I don't want to at some point hear this issue being discussed in the open and something that I shared out of sensitivity. I need to feel that whatever I have reported will remain anonymous, and secondly, it will remain as protected as possible, unless it's something that has to be addressed through a policy change. And at that point also, it doesn't have to come out that came from me. So you need to build trust through consistent actions and transparency. Finally, model and supportive leadership. This is something that I want to talk about in my next slide. That leaders who listen, support, and are vulnerable. You have to create an environment as a leader where one, you are leading with the example. Secondly, that you are open to listening to issues, and you are ready to support your employees to solve those issues. You don't want to create an environment where people are afraid of you as a HR, as a leader. If that happens, then you obviously people will be afraid to come forward with the small issues and the major issues. And now the smaller issues, maybe they'll naturally go away. But for example, sexual harassment, at the end of the day, you might end up with a lawsuit in your hands as a HR over something that could have been addressed in earliest possible stages. So I want to look at the things that, as a leader or leadership, the HRs need to do to make sure that we are building that safety culture. I think the basic one is listening. And when we are talking about listening, is ensuring that you are listening, and the person who's giving their views is able to understand that you are listening and you understand. Listening without interrupting, basically meaning that as I give my issues, I'm not going to be interrupted in maybe a policy being quoted. For example, if I'm giving a view on sexual harassment, I'm told that you know you have a policy. At that point, the policy doesn't matter as such. The most important thing is ensuring that the employee feels respected enough to be heard. Secondly, showing respect for different opinions. As I said, that the first thing you want to create is an environment where people are open to criticism, that you as a leader can be criticized and you are going to welcome that criticism. And so you need to show respect to that criticism. And at the end of the day, there will be no repercussion for the person who was giving that view. Again, you need to ask questions with curiosity. Apart from listening, maybe you can ask follow-up questions. Maybe this can come maybe through, again, from a perspective of a policy. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be stuck with the nitty details of the HR policies, the company policies. You need to ask questions that show concern to your employee, that show concern to whatever he or she is going through. You need to thank people for speaking up, focus on solutions rather than blame. You have listened, you have asked questions that show concern, you have welcomed criticism, and at the end of the day, you should be able to make sure that you are showing your appreciation to these people or to your employees for speaking out. Finally, you have to support colleagues when they face challenges. Now, um, as I said, I will welcome maybe an HR practitioner and somebody who's not in HR to talk about maybe how, for example, I took sexual harassment as an example. Showing support to your colleagues. You are showing support, one, to the colleague that maybe has issued, has brought out an issue, and also to the colleagues that the issue has been addressed to. And in this way, we have to make sure that, one, we are bringing out a face of that people will be treated with respect, both the person who's accusing and the accuser. When we go to the physical hazards, for example, if you have a faulty equipment, the person who has issued this, say, a report, needs to understand that you support them in whatever they saw, and maybe that you're going to support maybe the procurement or whoever is going to use this equipment, making sure that everyone understands that whatever was raised will be addressed, and this is something that you're on top of. At this stage, I want to, before I go to the benefits of the psychological safety, I want to have an open platform. I said I'm going to use psychological safety as, just a moment. I want to use psychological safety, sexual harassment as the basis. So what have we seen so far? One, for example, if you're taking an issue like sexual harassment, we want people to feel safe and to trust us enough that if this issue is raised, that one, they will have a platform to raise them and the issue will be addressed with respect. Now, I want to open the platform maybe to somebody who's in HR and tell us what in their workplace, that place that they work, what happens if such an issue is raised. And also, would like to hear from somebody who's not maybe in HR, to tell us if in their workplace, do they have a platform? Would they feel comfortable sharing such an issue? So please, let us start with somebody who's working in HR. You can just raise your hand. Somebody working in HR.
I think people are shy.
Somebody else to tell us. Okay.
People are afraid of talking.
Just tell us. Maybe somebody just tell us. Do you feel one? Would you feel comfortable raising such a matter in your workplace? Do you have a platform that you can raise that issue in your workplace? And do you feel that you trust that the issue will be addressed in the best way possible? I see we have different HR practitioners here. So kindly, somebody to tell us if This is something that they are doing in their workplaces. Should I choose one person? Okay.
Maybe if you are to repeat the question, maybe someone didn't hear it, so they are trying to wonder. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So let me repeat. So if you are a HR practitioner, have you created, do you think you can tell us if you feel you have created a space where if I'm going through sexual harassment, I will be able to report? That is one. Secondly, do you feel that as a workplace or the place that you work, you have policies that will be able to address that issue? And lastly, do you feel that the people in the place that you work would trust that the issue will be that you're going to address that issue to the fullest way possible? That is to the HR practitioners. To the people who are not in HR, my question is simple. Do you feel comfortable in your workplace, the place that you are working right now, that if you raise an issue on sexual harassment, it will be addressed? Sexual harassment is one major concern in terms of psychological hazards. We know the psychological hazards, others include bullying. So I saw a comment, um, this from Shamin. Yes, Shamin, you can unmute and tell us.
Thank, sorry. Thank you, Faris, and good morning to everyone. Yes, so where I work, I can agree to all the questions, or rather, when you ask if we have systems in place where people can feel comfortable to report, yes. Beside coming to the HR, some people like to go anonymous, so we have a site where you can go and log in. It's an anonymous Datix software where people can go and lodge their complaint. Secondly, because yes, we have policies in place and we do a refresher. We do refreshers every 3 months so that people can understand what is expected of them as employees, what you're not allowed to do, what your rights in the organizations, and just making the environment conducive where we have open communications, we have open dialogue. HR is we have the open door policy. Nonetheless, I would want to flag something. As much as we might have everything in place, sometimes it's not good enough for everyone. So we might think from HR we have everything working and everything is under control, but then perhaps staff don't feel the same. So that's why we always, we have these forums and past checks just to see whether, employee engagement rather, to see where we are and the improvements that we can make as a HR department. The other thing I would want to also mention that for us as HR as management to say that things are kind of working is if we have complaints. If we find reports that people have lodged complaints, then we are like the system is working. Of course, we are looking at a way where we have zero tolerance, but we are also projecting as an environment where we won't have any cases, not because people are fearful, but because the system is working so well and people know their rights and people have self-awareness that they don't get to report. So that is what we are looking towards. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anybody else would want to contribute? Maybe somebody who's not in HR. Do you know if you have a platform? Are you aware that if you have a platform in your workplace? Anyone? Okay. If nobody else want to present, this is what I have to say. If the systems are working well, then you should even have more issues raised. Even the simplest of things. For example, a faulty chair. There is something that can cause a physical hazard, that somebody will have some backaches if you are sitting in a faulty chair. Are people in your working environment comfortable to even raise such an issue, or that will be dismissed to be a very small issue? So we are not just talking about raising the major issues being raised. We also need to know that the smaller issues can be raised, including such an example. The washrooms, are they sufficient? Are they clean? If so, do you think that the people who you are working with will be able to point it out, and that will be addressed? So you should have a platform or a way that even the smallest of issues will be reported. So thank you very much for that. Um, I want to move on to the benefits of psychological safety to the employees and to the organization. And I would want to focus on the benefits of the psychological safety to the organization. One, I think the most important one for the HRs will be higher trust and retention. If people feel comfortable working in that such an environment, you are more likely to retain more employees, and obviously people will have the trust for the small and the bigger issues. We'll have improved performance. If I'm comfortable enough that all the hazards, including the psychological hazards, are addressed, I'm more likely to be more productive. Um, People are more likely to be more innovative. Um, Sorry? Yes? Okay, let's see. Um, can I'm now on presenter mode. Okay. So as I was explaining, people tend to be more innovative. Something that as pointed out, that if she will feel that the process is working, if we have less complaints, we have less issues presented. But something I would want to say, the smallest of issues, the ones that you may think that's something that is of major concern, I'm sure there is always a better way to do things. And if you are able to identify the smallest of issues and address those, then at the forefront of the major issues, those same employees will be able to find a way to address those issues. And finally, better decision making. This for the organizations or the employers, that if people feel comfortable working, they feel that everything they may raise will be addressed, then they'll be better decision makers. So for the employees, it will boost uh, confidence. It will create better well-being. For example, we said in the psychological hazards, for example, the bullying, the sexual harassment, that they don't feel uncomfortable coming to the workplace, and at the end of the day, as they live as a better person, if not the same person who came in during the day. It increases engagement, as I said, for the small issues, the big issues, and finally, it creates a stronger teamwork because you have already created a platform where both the leadership and the employees are able to present their issues. Now, I want to jump now. How do we now kickstart this safety culture? What are some of the things that we can do to make sure that we have this psychological safety culture? Shamim pointed out something that they usually have meetings and trainings to educate their employees on their rights, on the things that they should be enjoying. And so I will start with that. So work education is very important, but something that means is at what stage this worker education needs to take place. If you want to create a good culture, you don't want people to join your organization and at at some point in the working time, that is where the worker education is going to take place. You want to start at the point of inductions. So if you have a new employee and you have the different policies, for example, the sexual harassment policy, you need to educate that worker at the onset of that. So work education needs to start at the point in which this employee joins your organization, because you have already established a culture that they know what is expected of them, and then you are going to have the periodic trainings. The trainings, say 6 months, quarterly, that you're educating your employees just to make sure that they understand all the expectation of the company. Supervisor training, this for the leadership and the HRs. You need to train the people in leadership on respectful leadership and communication. So it's not just educating the employee, it's also educating the leadership and the HR practitioners. Reinforcement of expectation. You need to reinforce expectation during meetings, during awareness or toolbox for people who are working at high risk environments, such as construction. At the beginning of the day, you need to reinforce expectation just to make sure that they understand everything in terms of the policies that you already have, in terms of the expectation from the leadership, in terms of the platforms, for example, the reporting platforms, and something else. So what else can you do? You can provide employee assistance programs. A good example is ensuring that your employees know if, for example, somebody is going through a mental breakdown, how can you address it? You should be able to create a platform in which these your employees know what they can do. If maybe you can have a someone who's responsible for that, or somebody who's trained in psychology in your workplace, so they know how you can address some of the issues that they raise. Address things address issues early before they escalate. Again, I think we have mentioned this: confidential reporting, offer confidential reporting where appropriate, involve HR and other safety teams. If you have any serious concern, you should be able to involve the leadership. Any serious issue should not be addressed at, say, a departmental point. You should be able to involve the leadership of the organization. And finally, you have to support workers affected during and after investigation. So these are some of the things that you can do to make sure that you are creating a good safety culture or a psychological safety culture. I would want to I would want to talk about the training, the worker education training. As I mentioned, it's very important to start educating your employee on the onset. But at the same time, you need to have the compulsorily mandated trainings that an employee should undertake, say during a calendar year, during a quarter. So some of the things that maybe as a HR practitioner you want to ensure that they are happening. Number one, at the onset, sexual harassment trainings, health and safety trainings, and this goes to the occupational training that we had, that they are, for example, they are able to know the fire escape plans that you have. If somebody has a medical issue in their workplace, who do they call? Who do they inform? So you need to have trainings for that. And somebody, I think Shamin mentioned about their rights. They need to know all the policies that they enjoy in their workplace. So ensure that the trainings are done periodically, but most importantly at the start of the employee working. So at the induction stage, you need to make sure that all these trainings have been done, so that as you do that periodically, it's not something that it's new to them, it's something that they have already has already been addressed. I want to end this by mentioning that when people feel safe to speak, hazards are identified early, incidents and accidents are prevented, and everyone goes home safe. A strong safety culture starts with trust, respect, and accountability. And as we said, we are just taking care of the physical hazards. We also need to take care of the psychological hazards. When people feel safe to speak, we prevent incidents and accidents. We identify hazards earlier, for example, sexual harassment, and everyone goes home safe. And as a result, we are going to have a strong safety culture that, as at the start of it all, is guided by the psychological safety. So I want to welcome any questions that we may have. I want to thank you for your attention, and let's see if anybody has a question. So having this value of responsibility has worked for us, and we have not had issues in the longest time, and have time that have been here. This is very good. It means that you already have a strong psychological safety culture that is guided by respect and responsibility. Um, okay. I think this is a clarification from Shamim. No, I've said that we have more complaints. Okay, that is very good. So yeah, yes, you want to welcome as many complaints as possible, even the smallest of issues. I'm sure you cannot go for a day without seeing an issue in your workplace. You want to encourage people to bring out even the smallest of issues, because, for example, as I mentioned, the washrooms, if you have a working environment where the washrooms are not being cleaned periodically, this can bring up the biological hazards. So we are not talking about just the major issues, the bullying, the sexual harassment. We are talking even about the smallest of issues. So this is very good from a HR standpoint, that you have many complaints, and the people feel that any issue that is raised will be addressed. So I want to welcome questions, comments. Maybe you can share your experience in the workplace that you are in, on some of the issues that maybe you have addressed, how you have created a safe and respectful working culture. So what is the legal procedure when it comes to handling sexual harassment as a HR? So as I said, so different organizations um, will have different policies, but from a legal standpoint, um, the burden of proof is obviously on the person who is accusing, and it's the responsibility of the HR to determine the point of which it stops being a HR issue and becomes a legal issue. So say is if there was any physical contact, then at that point I would think it becomes more of a legal issue than a HR issue. But at the same time, you need to understand that um, the person who maybe have raised this issue should have the confidence to know that you as the HR have their back. Otherwise, they are not going to pursue this issue legally. So again, goes back to creating a safe environment where that even if you decide to escalate this issue to be a legal, the sexual harassment to be a legal issue, that they will still be comfortable following your lead to make sure that they get the justice that they deserve. Questions? So what happens if someone is sexually harassed and does not have evidence? This is also a very good question, because at the end of the day, it's not just about sexual harassment, is any issue that is raised with no evidence. And as I said, sometimes maybe there is no evidence because it did not happen, but there can also be no evidence, but it still happened. So as a HR practitioner, you have to create an environment where the people know that, once the issue is raised, all the processes that are in place will be used to make sure, one, to see if there's something that is either subjective or something that is substantive, and just making sure that you don't want uh, to to make your employees feel that if there is no evidence, they should not report. Otherwise, that is something that is going to be repetitive. So what happens if there is no evidence? I think you still need to have the process, done from, in terms of the policy, from start to finish. And at the end of it all, the person who's accusing and the person who's accused, there should be some sort of judgment that comes from it. And what I mean by this, if at the end of it all, if I'm the person who made that accusation, and at the end of it all, I was not able um, to substantiate, I should be comfortable going back to that workplace, knowing that everything was done to give me the justice that maybe was not given, but everything was done to make sure that that issue was addressed. I don't want to go back feeling that something was not done, or something was not done right. So there should be a process where at the end of it all, even if there was nothing that could have been done, but everything was done at the end of the day. If you're handling a sexual harassment case as a HR, how do I ensure that the victim identifies is withheld, yet there is the main thing in, sorry, ensure that the victim identity is withheld, yet they are the main thing in the case? How should this be handled? I think that's a good question. Um, when you are doing your trainings, you need to explain the process. You need to explain the process to the employees on how the case will be, will be addressed. From the name, if you have given, if the person has given a name, how is that name? Because you don't want to have the accuser's name flying around. So you need to explain everything of the process clearly to the employee, so that they know at each stage what is happening. Even if they are the person who have made the accusation, they are really comfortable enough to to know that their name will not be mentioned anywhere. And so this, I think, there's more of an internal mechanism, making sure that that person will feel that even if I've raised the issue, my name will not come up. The person I've accused name will not come up. And if it's coming up, it's coming up in a controlled environment, maybe in a closed door meeting, etc. So it's more of explaining the process clearly to the employee, ensuring that they know everything that will happen if an issue is raised. And that is not just for sexual harassment, even for the physical hazards. Uh, we give an example of the faulty equipments, the bad chair, etc. Any other question? So I would want to end by saying that a great workplace is not one that where nobody is making mistakes, but a place there where everyone is feels safe enough to learn from those mistakes. Um, the physical safety is not entirely dependent on maybe the things that are being done, but it's also dependent on the psychological safety. So every day that you have your employees coming to you, you should be able to send them back home in the best, in the way that they, in the condition that they came in, and ensuring that they know that their issues are addressed, and anything that they may raise will be respected, will be listened, and will be respected. So I want to end my presentation at that point. I hand over to the moderator. I don't have anything to add. I just want to encourage everyone to create an environment where people feel respected, valued, and confident to contribute without fear of embarrassment, blame, or retaliation. So this is not just for the HR practitioners, but also for industry leaders and obviously for the different employees. Thank you again for your contributions and have a lovely day.